I'm advocating widespread teaching of what I call causal literacy, which is essentially a very basic version of causal inference applied to everyday life and everything else. I say that we can and should do this at the undergraduate level across most non-technical subjects in high school, maybe even middle school. I got a lot of chutzpah because I've only ever taught this content to master's students. Not only that, but my course is considered intense. And frankly, many students finish it still falling short of many of my causal literacy learning goals. So what in my teaching experience gives me this confidence, and why should you believe me? First, it's a required course for Masters of Public Administration students, and most of my students describe themselves as not math people, or people who, I fear stats. Most come with no training in causal reasoning and evidence. The course is heavy in analytical thinking. One student once told me that my course makes her brain hurt, and yet, over the years, incrementally, I have found what works, what makes their brains hurt a little less, but most of all, what helps them really learn the ideas and use them. When I started teaching research methods over 25 years ago to help policy and management master's students, I thought of it as a social science research methods course. That was the way the course had been taught before me, mostly descriptive research methods, really as a sociologist saw them. My main initial focus was moving beyond the purely descriptive research and revving it up with the causal methods of economists. Well, I aimed too high, and I made the course much too much like what researchers do, not so much about practitioners and what they do and what they need. But over 25 years of teaching similar courses to various professional master's students, and especially in recent years, I've really adapted the course to my students, their careers, their interests, their backgrounds, their strengths and weaknesses. I teach with familiar examples from education, which all students have experience with, everyday life, and most of all, their workplaces. I ask them to bring their own examples of what they want to know. What I've realized is that the most important parts of causal inference aren't very technical. If no-shows to appointments rise after a new scheduling software is introduced, how do you tell if the software caused the no-show rate to change? Well, you think about what else could affect clients not show up. Did any of those things change? How much would any of those things likely change the no-shows? It's not rocket science, it's common sense, but you need training to systematically think about those kinds of ideas. And of course, there's much more to it than that, even if you're just looking at the most basic core ideas. But having seen what my students can learn, I believe that most people can learn these core ideas and apply them regularly. I've also realized that the course is hard for some students, not because the core ideas are that hard, but because I'm trying to cram what should be years of learning into just a few weeks. That's why I hope you'll join me in the movement for causal literacy. These key basics shouldn't be confined to 14 weeks or even less, and they shouldn't be just for master's students.